Ever been told that who you are, or where you come from, isn't good enough? This is the story about that. It's about a young man, a classic Filipino dish, and the sweetest revenge ever served. Miguel Santos wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was born in the beautiful chaos of Cavite, in the Philippines, where the air smelled of sea salt, jeepney smoke, and his mother's cooking. His earliest memories were made around a kitchen table, filled with the sound of garlic being crushed and the rich aroma of adobo simmering on the stove. For Miguel, adobo wasn't just food. It was love. It was identity. It was his mother's way of saying, no matter where you go, never forget who you are. So, when he earned a scholarship to study culinary arts in Spain, his mother packed his knives and the old adobo recipe a piece of paper stained with oil and time. Miguel made a promise, one day, Ma, I'll make the world taste this. On his first day at the prestigious Madrid Culinary Institute, Miguel felt a mix of pride and sheer terror. The classrooms were a world away from his home kitchen, gleaming with stainless steel and polished marble. Students from France, Italy, and Japan filled the air with the sense of truffles, saffron, and ambition. When it was his turn to present a dish from his home, Miguel smiled and announced, I'll be making adobo Filipino classic. He was met with polite nods and a few curious looks. But as soon as the garlic hit the hot pan and that familiar, sharp aroma of soy sauce and vinegar began to fill the room, the atmosphere changed. A French student named Louis waved his hand dramatically. What is that smell? It's so strong, he complained. Someone else whispered, it smells burnt. Another student laughed, asking, is it supposed to look that dark? The ridicule was quiet, but it was deafening. The instructor, Chef Alvarez, took a bite. He frowned, choosing his words carefully. Miguel, it's interesting, he said. But the flavor lacks sophistication. The balance is too sharp. This kind of dish, it might not belong in fine dining. Quiet laughter rippled through the room, and just like that, Miguel's confidence shattered. That night, back in his tiny dorm kitchen, he stared at the pot of adobo. He tasted it. It tasted exactly like home. But here, in this new world, it wasn't enough. He called his mother, his voice barely a whisper. They said my food isn't refined. Her voice was a calm anchor in his storm of doubt. Let them talk, Anik, she said gently. They cook to impress. You cook to express. That's the difference. But it was his instructor's words that echoed in his mind, not refined. This single phrase sparked an obsession every night. While his classmates went out, Miguel stayed behind, alone with his wok, his ingredients, and his growing frustration. He wasn't trying to change adobo, he was determined to elevate it. To make them see what he saw, he experimented relentlessly, adjusting the proportions, trying different vinegars, and perfecting the caramelization. He started studying European techniques, French reduction sauces, Spanish braising, and began weaving them into the fabric of his dish. He sourced better cuts of pork and balanced the acidity with a special sugarcane vinegar from Ilocos. Soon, the aroma drifting from his kitchen was no longer just sharp, it was rich, complex, and layered. His classmates started to notice, but they still didn't take him seriously. They nicknamed him the Vinegar Boy. Miguel just smiled through it all. Every insult was another log on the fire of his ambition. A few months later, the school announced its annual International Culinary Heritage Challenge. The theme was heritage on a plate, and the grand prize was an internship at a Michelin-starred restaurant. This was it. This was his chance. For weeks, Miguel was a man possessed. He didn't just practice the recipe. He studied flavor chemistry, plating techniques, and even the psychology of presentation. He was no longer just cooking adobo, he was crafting a statement. On competition day, the hall was buzzing with energy, filled with cameras, critics, and culinary legends. Miguel stood at his station, his hands trembling, but his resolve firm. He began by crushing garlic by hand, just as his mother had taught him. The pork hit the hot oil with a sizzle that commanded attention. Then came the soy sauce and vinegar, poured separately, allowed to find their own perfect harmony. The aroma that filled the whole was bold, unapologetic, and undeniably Filipino. Across the room, Luis smirked and whispered to a friend. Miguel ignored him, his focus absolute. When the judges arrived at his station, he presented his dish with quiet confidence. This is Filipino adobo, not reinvented, just respected. The plating was simple and elegant. Tender, glazed pork next to a mound of fragrant garlic rice, finished with a few pickled shallots for brightness. The first judge took a bite and paused, his eyes widening slightly. Then the second judge, then the third. An intense silence fell over their table. Finally, one of them spoke, his voice soft with awe. "This is extraordinary." Another judge nodded in agreement. "It's delicate yet powerful. The acidity dances on the palate. The balance is perfect. You can taste both culture and evolution in a single bite." Miguel stood motionless, his heart pounding. For the first time, no one was laughing, and when the announcer's voice boomed through the hall, declaring the winner, Miguel Santos, representing the Philippines, the room erupted in applause. Luis, his face a mask of disbelief, reluctantly joined in. Later, he approached Miguel, a half smile on his face. "You turned vinegar into victory," he admitted. That one dish changed everything. Miguel was offered the coveted internship at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Barcelona. He worked alongside a world-renowned team, learning and adapting, but he never lost sight of his roots. When the head chef asked him to create a new dish for the menu, Miguel had just one word: adobo. The chef was skeptical but agreed to try it. They added Iberian adobo to the menu. By the end of the first week, it was the restaurant's most ordered dish. Critics raved about its surprising complexity, calling it a Filipino dish that transcends boundaries. Miguel's revenge was his success. A year later, he returned home to Cavite. He walked into his childhood kitchen, and the first thing that hit him was that familiar, comforting smell. His mother was at the stove, stirring a pot of adobo. She looked up and smiled, a playful glint in her eyes. "So, did they like it?" she teased. Miguel grinned back. "They loved it so much, Ma, they put it on a Michelin menu." She laughed, her eyes filling with proud tears, and served him a plate. It was the same old recipe, simple and perfect. He took a bite and had a profound realization. No matter how many awards his version won, nothing could ever beat the taste of home. Years later, Miguel opened his own acclaimed restaurant in Manila. He named it Sarsa, a tribute to the sauce that carried his story. Engraved on the door is a single line: "Never let anyone make you doubt the flavor of where you came from," because revenge can be bitter. But when it's served with garlic, vinegar, and heart, it tastes just like victory. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that feed the soul. We'll see you in the next one.